A lot of people like to catch fish here on flukes or sluggos. You can certainly drag a hair jig or a gitsit on the bottom if the fish are in that kind of a mood. Top water works sometimes. Top water works quite a bit when the fish are in the right mood. It can be the bait to throw. A pop bar, a buzz bait, all good baits here on the Mohawk in the fall, depending on conditions. Now obviously, depending on the day you come, things could be different, but that's a good place to start. Small crankbait, spinnerbait, sluggo, and if the fish are deep, you may want to try a hair jig or a gitsit, drag it along the bottom, hop it along the bottom. Do you have anything to add to that, Steve?
Well, if I throw a crankbait here, I like to fish it a little shallower than a lot of people do, and make sure that I'm using a bottom bouncing crankbait. That action of deflecting off the rocks in the water triggers the fish when they're in a non-biting mode. So I find that to be real important.
Well, I'll certainly agree with that. That when I'm fishing a crankbait, I like to feel it digging into stuff the whole time, bouncing off rocks, bouncing off wood, or just digging along the bottom if it's a softer bottom. I think the trail that it leaves behind it, if you're digging into sand or even a softer bottom, can help to activate the fish. And certainly, whenever you've got rocks or wood or something to bounce the bait into, that can really turn the fish on and make an otherwise inactive fish bite.
Another bait I like to use is a large suspending rogue in the fall on the Mohawk, and work it real slow so it sits in the water. Sometimes you let it sit there as much as 30 seconds. If you get a real good rogue that'll sit in the water, you can let them sit up to 30 seconds without moving. Just as you start to move the baits, when you get a violent strike.
Well, that's something we may want to look at in here, because I don't think these fish have moved deep. Do you?
No, I don't. I think
they're still here.
We've gotten a couple bumps. They're just not active on this bait right now.
Jerkbait may be the way to go here. As a matter of fact, why don't I give that a try?
Okay.
We'll see if we can get something going with that. Because this is obviously, if we want to catch a bunch of fish, things have changed.
Ooh! Did you say it?
But it didn't bite, did it?
Wonder if you need to change color of the bait.
Well, we better change something. It's very important when you've been catching a lot of fish and all of a sudden you stop catching fish, that you start to change what you're doing. Obviously, all the fish haven't left the area, but they may start slowing down a little bit and become more active to another bait. So I'm going to try a jerkbait for a while, and Steve, I don't know what you're going to do, but it sounds like you were thinking of changing something.
I'm probably going to go to a gitsit. I'm going to throw a bottom bouncing bait.
We'll see what happens. Maybe we can turn these fish back on. We believe there's still fish here. We just had another fish follow. So along here we've had 3 bumps and only put 1 fish in the boat. The fish are still probably shallow. We got to figure something out. Here we go. Nice fish.
That is a real nice fish.
Jerkbait, no net in the boat. What do you do now?
He's all yours, buddy. That is a nice fish.
That's a good one. But I'm afraid to touch him. Well, he's hooked good, so not that good.
Something you may want to mention to people: when you get a fish like that, you're better off to grab the bait than grab the fish.
Yeah. You'll notice how I'm handling this fish. I'm I'm trying not to hurt myself. Boy, these fish can flop around, and when you throw this jerkbait, there's hooks all over the place, and the last thing you want to do is end up with a handful of hooks. It's the best way to stop a day of fishing. What a beautiful fish, a really beautiful fish. Look at the size of that one. That one is over 3 pounds. I'm gonna put this one in the live well just in case there's some more here, and we'll come back and let them go later.
Seems like they want a slow bait and they won't touch that fluke. I can't believe it.
Well, folks, I tied on this rogue. 3 casts later, I caught a big fish. And if you'll notice, Steve is tying on a rogue. Sometimes just a little change will make a big difference. Now, hopefully we can catch some more fish that way, but it really seems like we most likely will. Sometimes just a little change is all it takes. These fish are still in the same place they were. They're just not biting the same bait. That spinnerbait was a little too fast. I let this thing sit for a minute, and when I jerked, there he was.
One thing you want to make sure that you have when you're fishing a jerkbait is you want to have a good sensitive rod, especially if you're fishing the bait where you're letting it pause for 8 to 10 seconds. For instance, I'm using a G Loomis rod in an IMX series. It's real sensitive. That's what you need when the fish are having a real light bite.
Get one? All right. There we go. Well, I think we've made a difference. Good going, Steve. Nice fish. Very nice. Nothing wrong with that fish. And an easy release, too. So that fish that you just caught, Steve, I noticed it was only hooked on the rear hooks, and really the hooks came right out of it when it came in the boat. Now, the fish that I caught had all the hooks. I mean, it ate the thing. The hooks were all over it. You're using a blue, I'm using a clown colored. I wonder, we'll have to see what happens with the next fish. I wonder if that had something to do with it. I find, especially with smallmouth, color can make a very big difference at times.
I think the smallies are very selective, and it's telling me that the clown color is definitely a better color.
Now tell me what happened with your fish. Did it hit on the paws also like mine did?
I let my bait sit for probably 10 seconds, kind of like I'm doing now, and then when I went to twitch it, he was there.
Yep.
Not really a jolt, he'd just wait. And
that's what I found too. You know, that's one of the reasons why I went to this bait originally, was because I thought the spinnerbait was just too fast for him. They've slowed down this afternoon. They're not quite as aggressive. They're still there, but they want to see it sitting there. And they're looking at it, and then they're swimming over and mouthing it. The fish I caught, I didn't feel it until I jerked again. And I guess that's the same thing that happened with you. They're not as aggressive this afternoon, which is fine if you can still catch fish. You just have to learn to adjust to different conditions. Conditions change over the course of a day. And not just between dawn and daytime. It's not just, well, early in the morning you should fish a topwater or you should fish a faster moving bait because the fish are more active. That may or may not be the case. A lot of times it is, but many times it's not also. You just really have to, once you get on something and it's working and then it stops, you better figure out why it stopped. It's not always, well, the fish aren't biting anymore. You may just have to change up. Hopefully we figured something out now and we'll be able to continue catching fish after quite a long period of not. Pretty quickly we've caught a couple. I think we're on it again.
we probably stayed on that bait too long because we had so much success with it.
Yep, but you know what? At least we decided to change. And at worst, we caught 2 more fish. At best, we'll catch a bunch more.